Time is X minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
It's the Rocket Hour. Y'all are now tuned in. Time to hit the pick four that you'd love to win. If your money's coming slow, step on the faster track with your host, Ricky Pasternak. Let's go.
Good morning, everyone, and we are back with another episode of the Rocket Hour. We're going to do it a little bit different today. Not only are we starting a little bit earlier, but we're also going to just start with today's races first. We're going to try to check this out, see how it flows, and we'll get into some football later. We'll also get into yesterday's races, which kind of didn't break our way. We were close on some of them. Aaron had some nice tickets on those, but we're going to hop right into it here. And it was interesting as we kind of hop into the seventh race. On today's card, we started off with a scratch early that kind of changed our ticket structure. I'll introduce the race here. It was starter optional claiming 25,000 going 5 furlongs on the turf. I'll start with you. How did you kind of see this race playing out? Obviously, with the scratch, did that kind of affect your thinking or not?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't as far as the wager I'm going to play for the show. As far as my top four, yes, it did a little bit. The 6 under the covers was a horse I had in third, and obviously now that horse is out. So it doesn't really change much for me, though. I kind of think this horse was a little bit overmatched in this spot to jump right from a maiden claimer to the starter allowance level. And starter allowance level at Gulfstream especially is pretty tough. So I didn't love that horse today anyway. And also it kind of reaffirmed that my top pick and the horse that I'm going to place the win wager on in this race, number 2 Nitro Time, is the one to beat here because Safi Joseph trained both those horses. So he scratches the 6, maybe looking for another race down the road, and he keeps the 2 Nitro Time in. So I'll go right into that. That's going to be it's going to be a $10 win wager for me on number 2 Nitro Time to kick this thing off. Listen, I first time out for Safi Joseph, that is a great angle. There's just no way around it. Anytime a horse starts for him first time in his barn, tough to beat. So that right there is a good start. Tyler Gaffleone aboard, another good start. Got a lot of speed and 5 furlongs on the turf. We want somebody a little bit forwardly placed. So for me, it was a pretty easy first step here. I went number 2 Nitro Time, $10 to win. I also like the number 3 Exchange Day. At the end of the day, though, I think that bump of, hey, Safi Joseph for the first time gives Nitro Time a little bit of the advantage.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Everything you said, getting Safi Joseph is definitely nice. Brian Lynch is a good trainer, but I think when you talk about the Gulfstream races, some trainers kind of just get what's going on a little bit better. And I think, to your point, Safi Joseph does just that. I'll talk about the 3 Exchange Day. This is probably a step up from that 35,000 level, claiming level that he was running at. But that was his only turf start, and there was a lot of speed. This kind of just looks like a match made in heaven because Luis Saez is going to hop aboard again. I'm going to get right to it. I think this horse will be on the lead, and it's going to be tough. I don't know what the 2 and 3 do in terms of let's kind of see what happens. Do they kind of test each other? Does one sit off? I'm not sure who would sit off because the 3 has just done much better getting to the lead. And the 2 has gone to the lead the last 2 times. That one time was on the dirt. Let's throw that out. But in his last race, like you talked about, he kind of just drew away. Safi Joseph, first time, knows where to place his horses. So that'll be interesting. I think the race may or won or be lost within that first furlong in terms of the race setup. I'll get to a long shot that I like in a minute. The other horse that I think was logical is the 7 Alabama Slammer for Georgina Baxter. If you've gotten a chance to watch any of her runners, they are always live. 6 out of 9 in the money. 3 of those are winners. 2 of those are second, so 5 out of 9, first or second. This is going to be a first-time gelding. If you take a look at that race, I don't know how much better or worse it was than Nitro Time's race. Now, granted, the times are much different, but this horse was entered for the turf and stayed on the dirt. I kind of want to see how she does now getting on that surface. If she was entered for a dirt start, I might take her off just because we kind of saw what he can do. I just don't want to leave a horse off in Georgina Baxter's barn that was scheduled to run on the surface and taken off. So that's really the angle there. I think you can get some value. Hear me out on the 4 Our Hoisted Mass. So this horse comes back in a mile and was horrible. Okay. So I always like horses that cut back, and you can make a lot of cases to why this horse is bad. The one race he had, going 5.5 furlongs on the turf, finished 3rd at an allowance level at Colonial Downs. So you could say, well, I don't know, Colonial Downs isn't that great. If we're looking at a race that might kind of break apart, and I think this one might, tell me the 4 doesn't have a chance to pick up pieces. Now, I'm not saying that this horse is the best on paper. I'm just saying this is the type of horse that if things kind of don't go well, or the 2 and 3 kind of push each other too quick, too early, I think the 4 would be that horse. And I think there's a lot of class here. I just don't think he wanted to go a mile last time, and that's probably going to take people off. Did you like that horse at all, or am I just kind of grasping at straws?
I didn't use that horse, but I'm kind of with you in the fact that if it does fall apart, this is one that could pick up the pieces. And I agree with what you said about the 4. The one time that he raced at a similar surface and distance, he didn't do too bad. And Colonial Downs isn't the worst track in the world, especially on the, they have some good turf racing courses. It's the only surface they have, really. So that is a really nice turf course. A lot of good horses run there. So that really doesn't bother me that it happened there. My deal with him, I just don't think he's quite fast enough. One reason why I do have Alabama Slammer in the mix, I have him in 3rd. With exactly what you said, the horse really was entered to run on the turf. It got rained off, went to the dirt, still won, and now we're back to the surface that Baxter wanted to run this horse at. So I think that horse makes a lot of sense to have a progression today and to really jump up and run a lot better race. And to be quite honest, I think the 7 is who I'm scared of the most as far as beating my win bet, because I really believe the 2 is just a little better than the 3 with Safi Joseph on his side. So I kind of think the 2 can outrun the 3, but it's just going to be a matter of, like you pointed out, it has a chance to kind of fall apart. And if it does, I think the 7 Alabama Slammer is going to sit in a pretty nice spot to make a move. So that is probably the one I'm worried about the most. So I have no arguments really with who you've started off with.
Yeah, this is interesting because we talked about the sequence yesterday. This can easily chalk out, and if it's 2-3 or 3-2, I think I'm not going to get any value by using those top 2. I do think I would get value with the 7 to kick off the sequence, and I'll get a ton of value with the 4. I would probably knock off, I would say, potentially like 75-80% of those pick 4 tickets. If the 4 came in with the 7, maybe half of them, maybe a little bit more, because I think a lot of people are going to look at this race and say the 2 or the 3. The problem is I just don't know which one's better. We haven't really seen any of them sit off the pace with success. The 3 is set off with success. It set off the lead with no success. So I think this is just they're very similar in quality. I think they're very similar running styles, and I don't know. I'm hoping the thing falls apart. One point to add: this is not the turf race I believe that we talked about yesterday. That was 5 furlongs with Tiger Blood, and we'll get a chance to talk about that. Those horses are good. Those horses know how to rate. Those horses understand what the rider's trying to do. These horses are not as strong, so they're probably not going to be as keen to getting pulled up or held off a little bit or things like that. So that's always something to keep in mind as we kind of move along to the 8th race. This is allowance optional claiming for state-bred fillies and mares, 40-year-olds and upward, going 6 furlongs. So for Florida breds, I'll start here. I didn't really know where to go in terms of what horses to eliminate. Now, this is interesting for the mere fact that I kind of like or could make a case for every horse in this race except for the 1. That was the one horse I was like, this horse is no good. I want to talk. I used the 2, 3, and 4, but I want to talk about the 3 for a minute. Compt. So she has never run against winners. So you might say, well, I don't know. How was she going to do against horses that have been tested? The horses that have run against winners haven't really done anything. None of the trainers scare me. Robert Hess Jr. does, but that wasn't a great performance last time out. This is what I call moving up the ladder angle. So this is one of those levels where if you don't love any of the horses that have been trying this level before, you take a shot with a newcomer, and that's the 3 Comps. She was really, really strong at the 20,000 level. And you could look at that 2 ways, at 11.5 to 1. So let's call it 11 to 1. Either she just ran a bang-up race and she was ready to go, or she's not going to be able to match that. And we've seen time and time again that, younger runners, or she's 4 now, just don't have the ability to match that race when they enter this. But one of the things to know, she doesn't come in for a tag. So I think this horse might have shown a little bit more than the connections might have been anticipating. So I'm going to use her here. Again, I did use the 2, 3, 4. I just didn't love the 2 and the 4 for any of the races that they kind of ran. I prefer the 4 if I had to choose between the 2 and 4, but I'm really all over this 3 at 5 to 1.
Yeah, I think you made a lot of good points there. I do think a lot of people do get nervous when they see that, running against winners for the first time. And what really kind of turned me off, this horse was in a $20,000 maiden claiming race last time out that you mentioned, and was 11 to 1. So it's not like they had a lot of high hopes for this filly. Now she did win and she looked really good. So yeah, I think today it's the key for the 3 is what kind of pace setup are we going to get? If she can get an easy lead again, this jump up in class isn't going to make a huge difference because she'll get that similar trip and she's out in front and it doesn't really matter. But if somebody's kind of there pressuring her that is a little bit better of a horse, that's where I get a little worried. And I think that's what the 6 is going to do. I think the 3 and 6 are going to go out. And then I get a little nervous is can that 3 kind of sustain that run with some real pressure? For those reasons, and by the way, I don't hate the 3 using the 3 at all. Don't get me wrong, but I couldn't get there as far as the way I look at a race. From the single bet perspective, I'll get into it. I bet $10 to win on the 4 Brambleberry in this spot. It's simply, I just think this horse is classier than the rest of these. I looked at this field and I really hated it. And I really didn't want to mess with a lot of horses in here as far as the wagering goes. I just thought, this horse looks like the class. $10 win wager. I think you're going to get a halfway decent price to make it, worthwhile to bet. I kind of went over the 3, why I do, I don't blame you for playing the 3, but I didn't love the 5. I looked at that horse a long time, but boy, it's a big jump from 8K claimer to this, even though these horses aren't great, they're better than those 8K claimers. So I was a little worried about that horse, but I do think it's one you probably need to use, and like you said, the 1's just not great, period. The 2, last time out at this level, didn't do a lot of running, got beat by the 6 Sunset Empire, who I'm not just overly high on either. So it's just like, I really hate everybody in the field. I don't love the 4 either, but I just think this is the classiest filly in the race. So I went $10 to win on the 4 here in this spot.
Yeah, this is one of those, I think we bettors would agree. We would agree that this is not even you don't look at this race as who do you like. You kind of look at this race as who do you not like. And you kind of play process of elimination because, again, I think we could sit here and make a case for all of them except for the 1. I'm sure if we really looked hard enough, we could make a case for the 1. But you can say 2 through 6 and play a ticket 2 through 6 and say, I'm not getting beat. I attempted this yesterday, and there was a 5-horse field, and I used 4 of them and lost. So if you were to hit the all button or play 5 out of 6, you might as well just play the 6 out of 6 at that point and hope that you were wrong and actually get the race right. I'm kind of with you on the 4. That would be the horse that I would pick. I just don't know. These allowance optional claiming fields for Florida breds, to me, are no better than claiming races, and they're certainly not better than almost maiden claiming races. I just look at this 3, and I kind of say this horse has to get to the lead. While I agree the 6 is also going to want to get to the lead, I wouldn't be surprised Luis Saez to kind of just sit off. To your point, I think the 6 is a little classier and probably will have the ability to kind of just choose to sit off. I think this race is pretty awful. To your point,
it's bad.
I'd love to hear anyone's opinion who has a strong opinion on this race, because I would probably disagree with you if you said you had a strong opinion, to be honest. The one thing I didn't like about the 3, and I'll be honest, Tyler Gaffalione makes the move to the 2 after he riding the 3 the first time out. Well, you could look at it 2 ways. Either it's not a good look for the 3, which is possible, or he just wants to ride for Robert Hess. That's also possible too, because if Robert down the road says, hey, Tyler, I got something for you, Tyler will be willing to take a chance here. They won't be making much money on this race as a rider anyway, so that's something to kind of take into account as well. Let's move on to the 9th race, 20,000 through 16,000 claiming for 4-year-olds and upward, going 5 furlongs on the turf. I'll let you kick this off. This is a little bit bigger of a field. How did you kind of break this race down here?
Well, it's 4 very different races on this sequence that we're doing. The first 2 races, I just looked at them and said, I just don't think there's a lot of money to be made in exotics. So let's just play win bets. Hope to hit at least 1, hopefully 2, and then you've got a bankroll built for these next 2 races we're going to talk about, which I think where the money is going to be made today at Gulfstream, no matter what you're doing, single race bets or the pick 4 that you've put together. Listen, wide open race, 5 furlongs on the turf, 20,000 maiden or $20,000 open claiming. I mean, it doesn't get any more wide open than this. So I did a 4-horse trifecta box. I'll talk about 2 of my runners and then kick it to you. The 4 Uncage the Cat was my top pick. Another Safi Joseph horse coming right out of a maiden claimer and then boom, right into this claiming event here. Got the early speed. I like that. It's kind of a light bulb play for me. Sometimes I see these career maidens and they've ran 5, 6, 7, 8 times, haven't broke the maiden, and then boom, they do. I like to play them next out a lot of times, even more so that if I see a debut runner and then boom, it goes into against winners. So that's why I put the 4 on top. The 1 Star Weaver, this kind of seems like, and you talk about you love consistency. To me, this kind of seems like one of the more consistent runners in the race. I don't love that we don't get Saez today. We have Arroyo. But he has won on this horse in the past. As a matter of fact, his only win, Star Weaver's only win, was with Arroyo aboard. So I kind of like the 1 a little bit as well. That's 2 of mine. I'll come back with my other 2, but I'll kick to you now.
It's interesting you talk about the 1 Star Weaver. I completely agree. This is one of those races that I had him back the last time out on December 9th, because yesterday I talked about, when horses, I hate these types of horses, but I agree you have to use them. This horse started out on the turf and then won on the dirt. So I was like, all right, maybe he just needed to learn how to win. And then he loses again on the turf. So it's one of those things that I would, that I said last time, I'm sure to myself, this horse just wants to get on the turf again, and let's get him back on the turf. So then he finishes second. I do agree that, based on his effort last time out, you have to use him. So I did. I'm with you there. The 2 horses that I kind of looked to, the 1 was the 3 Soul Reflection. Awful start, just completely awful start. I think this horse, I don't know what to make of him in terms of he needs to be on the lead, and so do a lot of others. But I think a lot of people are going to look at that race and say, I don't know, he got crowded, he wasn't that good. Okay, look at all of his races where he's on the lead. Then how about you look at the turf race? Last time out, he's obviously didn't finish in the money, so you don't see him there. The other turf race, he won. Now, granted, that was at the maiden claiming 12-5 level. But I think this horse is just a better turf horse. And if you're willing to throw that race out last time, his form looks a lot better. This is a horse that has to be on the lead. If he's going to get crowded again, obviously, he's not going to have a chance. But I'm looking through the rest of this field now. I don't know who's going to run with him to start. I think the 1 will probably sit off or sit alongside to the inside. I love the 3 here. This doesn't look like a race like the other one we talked about that's going to break down. I think the speed actually has a chance to hold on here. So I took a shot with the 3. To your earlier point, I think you can find value in this race. So that's kind of where I'm going. The other one was the 5, Our Destiny. This horse has just been facing so much better. I don't really know how to explain it. Tyler Gaffalione gets aboard a 10-1 shot. That should be obviously something to keep your mind on. If this horse goes off at 10-1, I would highly consider playing a $5, $10 win bet because you will get a great ROI there. Obviously, for the sake of this segment, that's not what we're talking about. But I think shortening up in distance actually makes a lot of sense for this horse as well. Obviously, if you look at the 2 turf races going this distance, one in the most recently on July 26th, I think those races are just a little bit better than him. But then he went to go face allowance competition. He doesn't belong at that level. I'm not really sure what they were doing. I'll be honest. He's just not good enough. But this is probably where he belongs. If you're going to break your maiden going 5.5 on the turf at Saratoga, you certainly could run at the claiming ranks. So this is one of those situations. Obviously, we'll get back to Open Company here. He had been running against State Bred. That's just a horse I think that's going to be forwardly placed, and he just really outclasses this field. I'm sure you're all over this horse also, so I'll kind of let you get into the rest of it. I went with 135 from the mere fact I think the 1 is probably the most consistent and the most likely winner, but there's a lot of good competition with one with an excuse and one with a drop down in class.
Yeah, I am with you on this 5. I'm very excited to see this horse run today. There's so many positive signs. Barn change right off the bat. I don't think that's a bad thing. And then look at who was riding this horse at Saratoga when he broke his maiden, Tyler Gaffalione. And now he jumps back on, in a race that you would assume is much weaker than that maiden special weight at Saratoga. And now you're running for 20K at Gulfstream. So even though I think there's some decent horses in here, it's not the worst 20K field I've ever seen, but still the 5 Our Destiny makes a ton of sense here. This is a horse that I'm hoping spices up my trifecta. It's kind of one of those races where whatever prices come in, you're still going to get paid pretty well. If you hit this trifecta, just like the 7th race yesterday that we'll talk about in a minute. But for today, yeah, I mean, I love Our Destiny. I think this horse is a must use in anything you're going to play, whether it's a multi or an exotic. So that was my 3rd pick here. And I threw the 2 in. I hate to get beat by the factor going short on the turf. That's a Mike Somich angle, and it's kind of a it just works out usually that these factor horses run very well, especially at Gulfstream Park, it seems like. And it does seem that Saez, Luis Saez aboard consistently. This is the third time, even though the horse has lost 2 straight when Saez has been on. It just kind of tells me that, hey, we like this horse. We think there's a little bit to him. So I threw him in kind of as a defensive use. So yeah, I went with the 1, 2, 4, 5 trifecta box here. $12 bet. I'm hoping, anywhere from that $50 to $80 range is what I'm going to get back here.
Yeah, though I do want to talk about one horse that we both didn't use, but I do like, and that's the 7 Hushed Hijinks. This is a drop down in class. Paco Lopez rides back. He's also on the more consistent side when placed properly. If you kind of look at his most 2 recent starts, the last one was just better than this one. That field's just better, so I think this makes sense from that angle. And then the other one was Waiver Maiden Claiming at Pimlico last September. That's probably a little bit better here. Also, obviously, it's waiver, so you have some conditions that are going to make the field easier. That's just a horse that I kind of looked at and said, if he's going to be sitting off the pace and the 5 is going to be sitting off the pace, more than likely, I'll take the 5. The one thing I'm concerned about the 5, he quits. Now, maybe at 5 furlongs, he won't quit. Maybe it's just the fact that the competition was better, kind of made him quit. And it wasn't, it's always interesting. Do horses quit, or does the competition pass them? It could be a combination of both. That's something that the bettors have to decide. I would tend to say, for at least from the 5's perspective, that he was just really running out of his kind of district or zip code. So that's why you would say he quit. I don't think you quit when you lose, you're 11 by 7 1/4. It's not that bad of an effort. Even though we finished 11th, excuse me. To only lose by 7 at almost 20-1, it's not that bad, I'll be honest. What did you think of the 7, though? Obviously, likes to go 5 furlongs. Doesn't have any success at Gulfstream, but this is kind of a drop in class that kind of makes sense to me.
I think for your purposes, as far as the multis go, I didn't love him, but I really considered him as far as my trifecta goes, because that's okay. So here is the big difference when you're looking at different types of bets. You don't have to worry about who's coming in underneath. You don't have to worry about that third horse. You just need to get the winner. And I'm looking at the try. I got to think about that kind of thing. I got to think, well, I don't really love the horse, but could that horse get third and knock me out of some things? Yeah. It just came down to I just didn't like him enough. I kind of used the 2 as that same kind of logic of, hey, the 2 can get up here and this horse is going to hit the board. So I didn't want to use 2 horses that are just kind of quote unquote board hitters. So I left him off. He's the first one I left off though. So if you're sitting here watching and you say, well, I kind of like that horse, I would not talk you off that horse at all. Maybe if you're going to bet like a win or put them in the multis, I might try. But as far as even exactas, tries, supers, I think this is the horse that makes a ton of sense to use.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I think the 2 and the 7, now I didn't use either of them, but I think that's exactly what you said. They're board hitters. Like, I don't think we look at them and say they're legitimate win candidates.
Yep.
But for the other horses, we both agree on the 5. I think that's a horse that could legitimately win. If things set up, and obviously we think the same thing about the 1. And I think to your point, like you said, you have to worry about who's coming underneath. If I don't think there's a win candidate, I can just eliminate them from the start. And to your point, that's kind of how you have to look at your betting. Obviously, the more horses, the bigger the bets, the more kind of thinking you have to put into it. But that's kind of part of the deal. Let's transition to the final race of this sequence. And this is a pretty good one. Maiden claiming 50,000 through 40,000, going 1 mile on the turf. As I kind of scroll down here, we'll get as many entries as we can available for you. I'll start here. Actually, you know what? I'll let you start. I don't want to throw you off. I'll give you some time. I had no idea where to go. I took off a lot of horses that I wanted to use. A couple first-time starters making their second race all time in their career. How did you kind of look at this one?
This is what I like to call a circle race. And what I mean by that is you can just go around in a circle for hours trying to look at this and handicap this, because it's just a wide open scramble. It's 3-year-olds going a mile on the turf at Gulfstream, 50K claimers. And my kind of rule of thumb with this is anytime we're 5 days, I guess this would be 8 days into a horse's 3-year-old season, and they're already like, the hell with it. Let's put them in a maiden claimer. They're already giving up on a young horse. I think that's a horrible sign. I think these are some of the weaker races that you see. I don't think any of these horses are very good. I think it is a perfect race to play a trifecta box, or even a super for that matter, because this puppy's going to pay. We just need to get some luck. And I've said this on the show before. You got to do your best job of picking your horses here. I picked 4 and just hope you get some luck. I put, unbelievably, the number 6, Tiz Tac Toe is who I put on top. I love the name, by the way. This Jose Ortiz jumps aboard here for Barclay Tag, which is interesting to me because Jose Ortiz rode this horse on debut. 4th, beaten 13 links in a maiden special at Belmont. And so why would you get back on today? I mean, they got to think this horse still has some improving to do maybe. Last time out, dropped to basically to this level exactly. Didn't run bad. Was able to close a little bit, made up a little bit of ground, got fifth. I realized beating sixth. I'm not saying it was great, but at least we saw some improvement. So my hope today, I look at this and I say, I see some cheap speed kind of in this race. So if we get a setup for this, I mean, I'll call him a closer. He's really just a plotter, right? Like I think it's an injustice to closers to call this horse that. I think he's just a plotter. But if these horses start to back up, I do think Tiz Tac-Toe will keep running. So I put him on top, trying to get a price, trying to create some value. I also have the 6-1 horse, the number 8, second. And more of like your kind of logic a little bit and how you really like to handicap some consistent races at this level or even against tougher. Almost had the maiden broke a couple times if you look through these past performances. And this horse is kind of the opposite of Tiz Tac-Toe. He does have early speed, so that is good. The bad news and why I didn't put him on top is I do think there's other speed that's going to press, like I said. But I think if anybody out of the speed horses are going to hang around, it is the 8. So those were my top 2. I'll kick it to you now because, yeah, this is a wild race.
Yeah, I'll go. I'm going to go right to the rail with the 1. Going to get to the turf, going to drop in for a tag. This just kind of seems like one of those races that a lot of different things are happening for this horse. So I'm going to be willing to take a shot. I don't really know how he's going to run. Now, it's interesting. One can make the point that he was just kind of outclassed last time out. If you look at his first 2 races, maiden claiming 150,000, those are pretty much maiden special weight races. I've never understood why Churchill Downs did that. I don't remember the last time anyone has put up 150,000. Maybe you have. I'll be honest. It's incredible that they're even running races like that. 150,000 is just incredible to me. At that point, you almost might as well make a private purchase. But nonetheless, he clearly, even though I was maiden claiming, clearly just wasn't good enough. Last time out, never involved. I don't like to see that. What I'll chalk that up to, though, why are they running this horse 13 days later? Now, granted, I'm making a point why I wouldn't bet the 1, but after this freshening, I'm going to get to the turf. Obviously, I think the turf is a lot better for closers. I just think, we've talked about this all the time. No matter where you are in a turf route, it kind of seems like you're alive. When you're coming from far back on the dirt, it's just a lot tougher to do so. And I don't see any of these horses just being able to go gate to wire, no problem. This is still 2-turn, 8 furlongs on the turf. This is a horse that I think at 12-1, there are just a lot of things they're going that I can make a case for. And 12-1, I'll definitely get the price. This horse might just be bad. And if he's bad here, he's going to be bad everywhere. And it just will never improve. But I don't know. I'll take a shot with that horse. Coming from Churchill Downs, I just think this is a big drop down in class, and he's going to try the turf. The other one is the 4, 6-. There's tons of turf pedigree there by English Channel. It's Todd Pletcher, Tyler Gaffleone. The problem with this one is Pletcher owns part of the horse along with the Rapoli stable. Purchased for $180,000. They're going to get rid of him now at this spot. I wouldn't be surprised to see this horse get claimed. But folks also know that, they're claiming trainers, Rudy Rodriguez, Linda Rice, at least in New York. It doesn't happen as much necessarily out west because there's more runners here and things like that. A lot of people are going to be very, very shy or afraid of claiming from Todd Pletcher, especially a horse that he owns. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say Todd Pletcher is going to beat down your house if you do, but I just think a lot of people kind of say, I don't know if I want to do that necessarily because the horse racing game is very, very small and compact, especially when you're owning. I think this is just one of those spots. It could be a litmus test. And Pletcher, he owns a piece of this horse. I don't think he's going to put a horse in a spot, especially where he has say, that he doesn't think he could win. Now, this horse will take a lot of money. I just don't know if you're going to be able to get through the sequence with so many things. Tyler's going to pick up the mount. I said there was pedigree. This has a high purchase price, which you don't see for any of the other runners, except for the 11 Bourbon Thunder, who's just horrible. I think, any trainer winning at 30% anywhere, you want to leave that horse off. Good luck to you. You will get value, but if there weren't that many horses in this field, I would make the argument you can almost hit the all button or just eliminate a few. Did you like anyone else in this race, or kind of how did you the rest of this one playing out?
So my other two horses I used, the 4 was one of them, 6-. And here's what I really was fascinated by this horse. If this horse was in a maiden special weight, okay, and you look at the connections, number one, you look at the breeding and you go, okay, English Channel on the turf, that's good. Out of an AP Indy Merit, that's really good. So I think this horse would give you so much confidence and be like, oh, this horse can win this maiden special weight. Might even be the favorite if you put that horse in. But the fact they're starting the horse out at a maiden claimer is very scary, like you just said, for all the reasons. I mean, it's not a great sign. I kind of use the horse because it's like this field is hot garbage, and this horse might not be any good and still could run well and hit the board because he's got a really good trainer and a really good jockey and really good breeding. So, I couldn't stay away from the 4. I just couldn't. The other horse I used was the 5, Supplication, and this horse comes in from Woodbine for Mark Casse, gets Luis Saez aboard today. And, they tried to run this horse on the turf a couple times, and it got rained off, or maybe at Woodbine it got snowed off, and, hit the synthetic both times, didn't do a lot of running, finally gets to the surface that this horse probably wants to run at least according to Mark Casse, who's tried to get him on there a couple times now. So, and also gets a class drop. So there's some positive signs to make me think we could see some improvement. 4-1 on the morning line was a little shocking to me. I think this horse is going to be that one that kind of gets forgotten in the race. Maybe we get 6 or 8-1, and this is kind of a sneaky horse. So enough positive signs there for me to use the 5 in the try. So just to recap, 4, 5, 6, 8 trifecta box, 50 cents. Like I said, $12 bet. And this thing, if you hit it, it doesn't matter who you hit it with. This is going to pay because this is a wide open scramble.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. There are 2 scratches real quick before I say, I'll make a few other points. The 2 is out, will take control. The 13, now a Jaguar, wasn't also eligible. He's out as well. This is interesting because I think you can make a case for a lot of the horses. One of the horses that I wanted to talk about was the 9, Lord of War. If this was I'll be honest, if this was any other trainer, I'd probably give him a shot. Again, I was all over Le Peru when we first started a couple of weeks ago. I think he's riding much better, especially on the turf. It says hesitated and greenly in the stretch. I think that could be encouraging. The stretch out wouldn't bother me necessarily because of the lack of early speed. Now, if he says hesitated, maybe he has more early speed. But nonetheless, if you just look at the race, I think it was pretty accurate. 9-2 isn't bad, I don't think. But, I'm not going to sit here and cast aspersions. But Patrick being Cone, I can't bet on a trainer that has 1 second, 3/3, and 19 starts. Nothing against him, nothing against the job he's doing, and it could just be the horses. But at some point, you have to say that's a play against. And we've talked about before a Todd Pletcher, a Safi Joseph, a Carlos David in certain spots. Those are must plays as long as the horses aren't horrible. But those trainers aren't going to have horses that are horrible. So it kind of goes both ways. Would you be willing to get beat by this horse? Would you be upset if Lord of War wins? Or would you just say, I can't bet a trainer that's doing this poorly also?
Yeah, I don't think I would be upset. For me, it was just more of that debut just wasn't great. I do think the horse stretching out a distance makes sense. I think, you look at the pedigree. I don't think 5 furlongs is what that horse wanted to do. They may have just kind of trying to race him into shape a little bit, and then boom, second out, going to run a little better. Maybe in the end, I should have used the 9 and not the 4. But I guess the best answer is I kind of looked at it like you, now that I talked myself in circles a little bit, because it's like, okay, what are you going to feel the worst about? Todd Pletcher beating you or being Cone? I mean, so it that was kind of the last angle, I guess. I don't hate this horse, but I'm not going to feel too bad if he beats me, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. So we'll read off our tickets real quick. I went with the 2-3-4-7, starting in race 7, 2-3-4-7 with 2-3-4 with 1-3-5 with 1-4-8. That's $54. I think the back half of the sequence definitely has value. To me, if I were to play this a little bit differently, I would try to find one of those horses in the 8th race that I really, really like and go a little bit bigger in legs 3 and 4. Or if you want to go the other way, you could play daily doubles even in the 9th and 10th, I think find a lot of value. But again, for the sake of this sequence, that was my take on it. I think $54 is a little bit more on the expensive side, but I think you're going to want coverage, especially at the back end of the half.
Yeah, and let's try to make it 2 for 2. Yesterday, invested $37, got back over 150. So that was a big day. We'll talk about those races in a second. So kind of get inside my mind what I tried to do here. I think the first 2 races on this sequence here don't provide a lot of value. So I just went $10 to win on the 2 in race 7 and $10 to win on the 4 in race 8. The 8th race is the one that I hate the most. So if you are playing this whole card, I almost say skip the 8th race. Like it's just really bad. But for the sake of the show, I'm not going to skip races when we're only talking about 4. So I think with the goal in the 7th and 8th race, make a little bit of money, pad the bankroll, and then you take your shots in the 9th and the 10th. That's where the money's going to be made today. There's no question about it. So I played trifecta boxes in both of those races. In race 9, 50-cent trifecta box, 1, 2, 4, 5. And then a race 10, again, a 50-cent trifecta box, 4, 5, 6, and 8. Total investment today, $44 for me.
Yeah, so that wraps it up. We'll talk about yesterday's races real quick, get into some football real quick. That's you want to stay along. Obviously, we gave you what we have for today, which is the most important stuff. Let's get into what we saw yesterday. Obviously, you had a better day than me, which doesn't seem to be it kind of seems to be a theme here, but that's okay. Let's take a look. I'll start with the 7th race yesterday. We were kind of all over the same thing. I'm not going to get into the horses that didn't run well. Golden Curl did exactly what we thought she would do. I'll let you take it because you were a little bit higher on her. I think she kind of did exactly what you said. Yeah,
well, listen, we both were all over this race. We both used the same 4 horses. You used 1, 4, 6, 11 in your multis, and I used 1, 4, 6, 11 in a trifecta box. So we were all over it. And I think I even commented, hey, if we don't get this one right, we got to quit, right? Because we were it was crazy. So, yeah, you're right. The 4 did exactly what we both kind of thought. This horse was the class of the field, got out in front, and took them wire to wire. I mean, it was a really good race. I wouldn't mind seeing the 4 back. I mean, I think that was a pretty solid effort. And I'm always a sucker for curling. So that's, that was great. Nice trifecta there to kick off the card for me. Paid about $73 on a $12 bet. And that's kind of what we're talking about, right? You just want to make sure if I'm going to hit the try, let's get money back. Let's not get a $12 bet and make $20 on a try. So the race set up perfectly for that. The 11 that we talked about a lot, it's like, I'm just scared. I don't want that horse to beat us. Would have beat me if I didn't use it. We didn't. Neither one of us really loved it, but it's like the connections are just too good. So, I mean, I think this race was a slam dunk for us both.
Yeah, no, I agree. The 4 kind of Golden Curl just did what we said. We were all over the race. It's interesting. When you could be so right, it really pays off immediately. When I could be so right, it's only 25% of the ticket, so that kind of stinks. Mm-hmm. But that's okay. Yeah, Dennis had Golden Curl also. I think that was plenty of value. You saw we really kind of laid it out yesterday, so we don't really need to break down who didn't run well, honestly, since we hit that on the head. The 8th race, I was all over the 4 Gatsby. I was completely wrong. You made the point for Real Talk and Willie Boy. You were dead on there. You texted me yesterday. The first 2 races went really, really well. I couldn't have agreed anymore. I'll just take it. I'm not going to talk about the 1 and 7. I'll let you talk about it. I think Gatsby might have gotten overshadowed by those races, and it's weird. He was competitive. Maybe he's just not that good. I thought he would have been good enough to drop down in class, but it just doesn't seem like that's the case. Kind of talk to me how you saw Willie Boy in Real Talk, because those were the 2 horses you were on.
Yeah, every race, this is what I really love about horse racing and why I enjoy betting horses over anything else. Sports, for example, I just enjoy races a lot better because every race provides a different opportunity. And the way I looked at this was, yeah, Gatsby is definitely the class of the field, but man, so many losses in a row, just loss after loss. And I thought, that horse is going to take a lot of money. And I do like the 1 and the 7 a lot. So I'm just immediately, when I looked at that race, the exacta box 1 and 7 like jumped off the page. That doesn't happen very often. It was just incredible. So it took me 2 seconds. I'm like, I like the 1 and the 7. We're going to try to beat the 4. I said yesterday, it's all about taking a swing when you have an opportunity like that. So yeah, $5 exacta box brings back almost $90 on a $10 wager. So was really happy with that. And listen, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. And this race just worked out really good. We talked about Willie Boy and Real Talk kind of being the speed, and they were the speed, and nobody really came and got him. So it was an exacta that really didn't have any stress involved in it at all. These 2 kind of were just 1 and 2 all the way around there.
Yeah, it's interesting that you talk about Gatsby. The horse that I included that we didn't really talk about, Famous Gent. Thought he ran really, really well. That was the horse that I put on, would have been 4th on my ticket. Again, it doesn't really matter. He closed. He was just a little bit too far back, and I think the 1 and 7 are just better than him. But if he's going to drop, if he comes back in this class, I don't mind taking that horse. And the reason I think Real Talk is better than this level, I wouldn't be surprised. Him moving up a little bit, and I think the 7 is really ascending, Willie Boy. So look for the 2 next time out. I don't need Gatsby back. Probably will be in for a tag. The 9th race is interesting. We were going back and forth about this race. I think we spent almost the majority of it. I used the 5, Yes, I Am Free, in my pick 5 ticket, but not in my pick 4 ticket. I was all over the 4, Mo Maverick. You were also. I also like Tiger Blood. You like the 2 Fully Loaded. It's interesting because the 3 we kind of threw out their day, which was the speed, and the speed really held up. You could see there the fraction was 22 and 3. We got that completely wrong. Had we known it was going to be 22 and 3, I think we would have given their day a much better chance. I think Yes, I Am Free just got the perfect trip, and you could see there third, second, kind of just gradually moved up. I don't want to say their day was the cheap speed. It's really, really tough to go gate to wire when you're in an all-out sprint like that, going 5 furlongs.
Yeah, I was shocked by this race, and it starts with the fractions, like you said. I thought, yeah, Dare Day will be close to the front, but I thought he would have a lot of company. And yeah, at one point this horse was a length ahead, of everybody else. So, like I said, sometimes you get them right, sometimes you get them wrong. Here, I got them wrong. I will say, so my bet was a win wager on Fully Loaded. At least the horse was in the race. It was at least a thrill. I had a chance. He didn't get smoked. Yeah, he got 4th, but it wasn't an embarrassing race. So I wasn't really upset with how I wagered on that one. As far as these guys going forward, listen, I think there's some really good horses in this race. We talked about it at length yesterday. I wouldn't be afraid to bet a lot of these horses back. I really believe we got some really nice horses. I think the next time these guys are entered, it's probably going to be a little bit weaker of a race. So that was a strong.
Yeah, Dennis put up, do you think that horse should have come down? I don't believe so. I kind of think they did the right thing by leaving the horse up. And to be honest, there's two ways to look at objections and inquiries and things like that. Did it affect the outcome of the race, and was it a foul? Some people might just say, well, it was a foul. It doesn't matter if it affected the outcome. It should affect the outcome. And again, that's why you always kind of have 3 people, what I would call the review booth, that they're kind of making decisions, because you can't have it end on a tie. So if it comes down to one person, it's going to be 2-1. I think they did the right thing. No changes were fine. Let's attack the last race. I don't know where to begin with this one. Perlescent, I didn't like it all, to be honest. Cut back a little bit. But at this level last time, she just wasn't that good. You could make the case Camellia Gal went on to win her next start, so maybe that race came back a little bit better. Again, this was the Mike Somich angle, the factor on the turf.
Yep.
I don't necessarily disagree, but this horse didn't look good. If we're just betting on pedigree, then we don't need past performances. Then I could just say the factor on the turf, and that could be my angle for the next, 15 years or so. So I don't really know if that's what the logic behind that horse was, then I can't argue with it. She just didn't look that good. This was just, to me, a simple case of they knew, because it's 7-2, goes off. I thought this horse would kind of go up. Winnipeg Wonder did take a lot of money, but some of these other horses, Alluring Rumba, went up in odds. I didn't think that would happen. Rosie's Invasion didn't take all that much money. I thought she would. So I think this is just a simple they knew. And you kind of know before the race is about to go off, if you see the odds, you're like, oh, I'm in a world of trouble. And that's kind of the way it was.
I'm with you. I just didn't get why this horse was getting bet like this. Like, they were pounding this horse. So yeah, I'm with you. This is just a throwout race for me. I really didn't like any of the horses in the race as it was. It's kind of a lower level. I'm not really interested in anybody back. And then you look, it's a blanket finish. I mean, so many horses were right there, with a quote unquote shot. Just one of those races. I just kind of moved on. I was watching on my phone and just turned the phone off and went on to something else. Cause at this point I couldn't have got to that horse, and I wouldn't have wanted to play that horse at the price. And then, obviously a winner. So, and again, I was crushed 2 races of this 4 sequence and absolutely whiffed on 2 races. And that's kind of what we talked about a little bit yesterday. That's racing. Sometimes you just whiff, and I definitely did here. My horse number 4, Matcha, that I tried to use, or that I tried to bet the win on, got the price I wanted, 6-1. Horse was right there. I thought, hey, we got a shot to win this thing, and didn't do shit. Just stopped. So, yeah. It happens sometimes. Yeah,
I wasn't on 3 either. And, if you're going to make the case that you're going to bet the factor on the turf, then I would have expected you also use this horse at the maiden special weight in her debut and her second start. So you're not going to just say, hey, I'm going to wait for the factor to drop in class. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Right. So that is it for yesterday's card. Hopefully today will be better. We do have some football that we want to get to. Obviously, this is not relevant to what we do here, but it is the playoffs tomorrow. It is the playoffs on Sunday. There are 3 games each day, so we'll touch on that real quick. Obviously we have you have your Oklahoma ties. I have my Ravens ties. The first game of the day is Saturday, Colts and Bills. Does this kind of seem like a prove-it spot for Josh Allen, 6.5-point favorites? The Bills are home. The Colts have to go outside. They're playing in a dome constantly. Phillip Rivers hasn't played well in the cold. How did you kind of see that game breaking down?
I really think that this might be the 2 better teams coming into the playoffs right now in the AFC. In the end, I think the Bills are just playing a little bit better. And even though, yes, I do think this whole playoff is kind of a prove it for Josh Allen. He's been tremendous in the regular season. Now let's see if he's a big money quarterback. I just think the Bills are a little bit better. I trust Allen more than I trust Phillip Rivers. So I'm taking the Bills here. Minus 6.5. It gets a little dicey with that number, but I'm pretty confident in the Bills. So I'm going to take them.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think it's too many points. They are the best team. I would say they're the hottest team heading into the playoffs, at least on the AFC side, so I'm with you. The next game is the Rams and Seahawks. I don't have a strong opinion on this. What I will say is if you take a look at Russell Wilson's numbers at the beginning of the season, I would say through week 8, and then week 9 through 17 or 1 through 9, and whatever, however you want to look at it and break it down, they haven't been able to get their throwing game, their passing game, at all. They have so many weapons that, granted, Russell Wilson, I don't want to say made, but he really got the best out of DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, the kid Hollister. They have Chris Carson back running the ball. Rashad Penny just came back. They have a lot of weapons. This is a tough LA Ram defense. I hate when we see similar styles. I think both teams want to run the ball first. I would lean Seahawks. I'm not confident, though. This is it's a low total as well. It's only 42. Did you have a strong opinion? I kind of see these teams being really, really similar, to be honest.
Yeah, the Rams are a team that I just can't ever get a handle on. They're just so damn inconsistent. If the Rams were a horse, you would never play them, Ricky. You would hate the inconsistency of the Rams. My lean is Seahawks. It's a weird line because I thought the Seahawks would be favored by a bit more, just how weird the Rams year's been. Only 3, that almost kind of feels like a trap, but I would take Seattle here.
Yeah, I also think, this looks like, what we would say in horse racing, a rider's race. This looks like a quarterback game.
Yeah.
It might come down to Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff's going to play, but I heard they might use John Wolford in some packages, who looked decent last week. I'll give him credit. Good. It looks like one of those games where it might be 17-17, and Russell Wilson just kind of gets them into field goal range and ends it. I don't see it being high scoring. I would honestly stay away from this game. This is one of those games where, again, both teams know each other really, really well. They've played each other before. They know the personnel. They know the schemes, the coaches, all that good stuff. This would probably be a stay away game. And again, one of those games where you say, I don't want either of them next time out. But for the sake of this conversation, I think we're both leaning Seahawks. The next game is the most interesting game to me on Saturday night. Granted, they're never going to put Tom Brady not in a primetime spot, but he hasn't done well in these primetime spots now. A lot of people have joked and said, I don't know, Tom Brady at night, he goes to sleep early, all that good stuff. This Washington team seems to be playing with an edge. They can get after the quarterback, Chase Young, Ryan Kerrigan. They could play on the back end. Now, granted, Tampa Bay has a ton of weapons, absolutely all over the place. Antonio Brown. I don't know if Mike Evans is going to play. He left early. I think he will be back in the lineup. Chris Godwin. They have 2 tight ends in Brait and Gronk, who's in a nice resurgent year. Leonard Fournette's been involved. They have a multitude of weapons. The key is, how does Tom Brady take the pressure?
I think Tampa's going to win, but I think it's going to be razor thin. I think it's going to be a really close game. And I think the one thing you touched on that makes this game fascinating is the pass rush of Washington is tremendous. Chase Young is maybe one of the best players in the NFL, regardless of position, defense, offense. I would take Chase Young over 99% of the players in the NFL right now. And Brady's a statue back there. We know that. And that's not a knock on him, but that's just how he is. He's not a mobile quarterback. If they get pressure on him, he's going to have some trouble. This is going to be a closer game than people think. 8 points right now. I'll take Washington +8. I do think Tampa wins the game and moves on. But I'm with you. And listen, Washington has an experienced quarterback in Alex Smith. I mean, he has like half of a leg, but still, he is an experienced guy. So I think Washington can give them some trouble. I don't think it's a great matchup for Tampa. I do think in the end, the weapons, like you mentioned, the Tampa have will be enough to push them over. But I think it's going to be a close game.
It's interesting. I brought up all those points to say I think the Washington football team will get blown out. The reason I say that is in this league, you have to score. I think their defense is strong. I haven't seen this. I don't know if Washington will be able to put up more than 17 points. You can get at the Buccaneers defense. I just don't know if they have the quarterback to do so. Alex Smith is dink and dunk. They have Antonio Gibson. They have Terry McLaurin. They have Logan Thomas, who's been a really resurgent tight end. I just don't know if they're capable. If this is not the league anymore where you're going to win 17-14. This isn't any of those Patriot Giants Super Bowls. I just think the Bucs are playing too well right now. It took a little bit longer to get that offense going. I see this game more of 34-17. I don't know, 34-20 maybe. I don't know how close it's going to be unless they get a ton of pressure on Brady. And even if they do, they have so many weapons they can go to the ground game. I just don't know if Washington will be able to keep up. Let's move to Sunday and my favorite game because I'm a Raven fan. Ravens and the Titans -3 for the Ravens. The Ravens are 3-point favorites. I'll let you start. I'm biased. I'll just say that I think this is a big spot for Lamar. I hate doing this to a young quarterback. I watch every game of his. I think he's a lot better than people think. I think he's got to use his legs. That's his best weapon, and that's fine. He doesn't get hit a lot. This is just one of those situations where this is a big moment. He's even younger than Joe Burrow, which people forget, and he's only ascending. He's definitely getting better. I'll let you kind of break it down because I'm biased.
This is going to be the best game of the weekend as far as entertaining to watch. Look for a 38-35 type of shootout. I think both these defenses are pretty skeptical, especially the Titans. Their defense is trash. And, and then you've got two great offenses, especially when Lamar is good, and he's been really good. I do think, sorry to say this, Ricky, I do think the Ravens are a little dressed up right now. Like they have beaten a lot of teams really badly, but they've played some really bad teams down the stretch. So I'm very interested now that they're in the playoffs and the competition gets a little tougher. But yeah, I think the Ravens win and cover here. I just think that Tennessee defense is going to struggle. The Ravens defense should be better than what it's playing, in my opinion. Like I know they've been better with the bad teams, but like with the Titans ran all over them. The Browns were able to move the ball over the field on the Ravens. So I don't know. I agree. Lamar has got to play well, but this defense has got to be better. In the end, though, I'm not a huge Titans guy. I think if you took Derrick Henry off that team, I don't think they'd be very good. So I don't think one player can carry them in a playoff game like this. So Ravens for me.
What I will say, I'm not going to give my side because, again, I'm biased. But what I will say, and tell me if I'm wrong, I look at the play, I was listening to some sports TV yesterday, some talk shows. The Ravens have the ability, I think, to win multiple games. I don't know if the Titans necessarily have that. If all the favorites win and the Ravens move on, they'll get the Chiefs. The Titans are the same way. I just look at the Ravens, and again, I've talked to Jared about this. I've talked to a lot of people. Lamar has a chance to wreck a game. You can't prepare for him. If he has a big game and they lose, I think he'll rewrite those wrongs. I don't know you can't go by what a big game is for him just from the mere fact that he doesn't throw the ball a lot. So if you're going to say, well, he only had 150 yards, but if he had 150 running, that's a good game for him. He's not a normal quarterback. I just like, from a neutral's perspective, I think you'd want the Ravens to win because I think they could actually win multiple games. Like you said about the Titans, I'm not sure that they can. If you take away Derrick Henry, I don't know how great Ryan Tannehill is. He's solid. He's good. Been a Pro Bowler, but I don't know if he's ever going to win a Super Bowl or anything like that. Let's move on to the next game at 4:40, the Saints and Bears. This is a snooze fest to me. I'm sorry, folks. I don't care about Mitch Trubisky. I don't care about Drew Brees anymore. This is not his time. They have plenty of weapons. They have Alvin Kamara should be back. He tweeted last night, I'll see you guys on Sunday. They still have Latavius Murray, Jared Cook. They have Emmanuel Sanders. I believe Michael Thomas will be playing. That was the goal. He was dealing with an ankle injury. He should be coming off of IR. They have so many weapons. And at the end of the day, who do you want? Drew Brees or Mitch Trubisky? This Bear defense hasn't been that good. It's a lot of points. But if you're Drew Brees, the last time we saw you was, I believe, last year against Kirk Cousins at home, and you lost. So if this is your last year and you go out again with a first-round exit as a double-digit favorite, it's not going to be great.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. I think it's an easy win for New Orleans. They're actually knocking on my door, getting ready to kick me out of this hotel. So I'll give you my quick picks for the Browns game too, and then get out of here. But yeah, this game blowout. I hate the Bears. They suck. The Bears in the playoffs. It's just ridiculous. The Cardinals should be shot. And they should be in there. So I'm going Saints big, and I'm going Steelers like 38-7 type big. I think the Steelers absolutely pound my Browns Sunday night. Browns, coaching staff has COVID. It's a mess. It'll still be Baker's fault when they lose. I know. I'm ready for that. But yeah, I think the Steelers will be much improved this week with Big Ben back. So listen, I got to get out of here. We were joking before. It's like they're not going to be knocking on the door at 11. We can go a little longer. Literally just knocked on the door. So, guys, I'll sign off, I guess, and then I'll let you finish the show. But, yeah, thanks for having me on, Ricky. Good luck to everybody that's going to play today at Gulfstream. And I'll see you guys next week.
Yep. So I'll take it from here real quick. Just on the Saints point, I think they are just so much better than the Bears, to be honest with you. They have so much going on for them. They have a defense. They'll be able to stop Mitch Trubisky. One of the things that the Saints will try to do, I think they'll get their run game involved, and the Bears also rely on their run game, David Montgomery. But if they're down, I'm not really sure how they're necessarily going to be able to catch up. They have a few weapons on the outside. Hopefully Jimmy Graham is back in the lineup as a red zone threat. I just think the Saints have too much. In terms of that late game, the Browns and the Steelers, Aaron is Oklahoma biased, and that's fine. He's not shy about telling you that. So we make the argument, well, you have CeeDee Lamb. Well, the Cowboys aren't in it. Well, you have Kyler Murray. Well, the Cardinals aren't in it. Well, you have Baker Mayfield. Never thought we'd be saying that. Baker Mayfield will take on the Steelers. This is a tough spot. Kevin Stefanski's coach won't be there. There'll be a new play caller, Alex Van Pelt. This is just a really tricky situation. The Browns have never been an organization where they just kind of ascend, right? It's like you got to take baby steps. And for them, making the playoffs is a baby step. It's an opportunity for them to prove that they belong. And I've always said it's one of the tougher divisions. I definitely think it is. But I do believe that if this is Big Ben's last year, I don't want to say a drama queen, but he's been saying this for a long time, that it might be his last year. You got to take this seriously. It might be the last game, all that good stuff. I just think the Steelers have too much. And when you look at the Steelers, when they play really, really well, they're good. When they play really, really poorly, they're not so good. I just think that this is not Baker's time yet. With all that being said, I will give my picks really quick. I'd take Buffalo -6.5. I think going outdoors for Phillip Rivers, who hasn't played well in the playoffs, is a tough spot. I would lean the Rams. They're -3 right now, depending on where you're looking at. I'm at the Sportsbook by William Hill. I would take the Seahawks in a low-scoring game. I think the Buccaneers will be all over the Washington football team -8. I think it's a double-digit win. I don't know how much they're going to be able to do scoring-wise. I would say 34-20. I think Tom gets the job done. He's played in cold weather. Obviously, New England in the past won't be an issue. Ravens-Titans, I will abstain from that, but I do agree with Aaron. I do believe it will be a higher-scoring game, and both defenses have not played well. Look for both teams to score points and score easily. The Saints and the Bears, I don't know. I'm not. This is the game that I don't feel comfortable about at all. I would take the Saints. I think Alvin Kamara actually getting a week off might actually help him get some freshness into him. If Michael Thomas comes back healthy, I agree there. That's another added weapon. And Emmanuel Sanders has been playing well. I would take the Saints. And finally, I would take Pittsburgh. If you can get it under a touchdown, I would do it. I think Baker going on the road, that's not a problem weather-wise, but we without his head coach. The first few drives could be scripted, but once those plays aren't scripted and they have to be called through the headset, I think that'll be a massive difference. So I would take Pittsburgh there as well. For everyone tuning in, thank you so much. I know you had to listen to all that football nonsense, but we just wanted to give our opinions real quick. Obviously, Aaron's not with us. We'll be back with you guys on Wednesday morning at 11 a.m. I'm sorry you had to do this a little bit earlier, but Aaron was traveling, all that good stuff. Curtis was on with us Wednesday. Hopefully we can get another guest next Wednesday as well. So thank you again. Our plays are at the bottom. comment, give us suggestions, all those types of things at the Racing Dudes, all their social media accounts. More importantly, good luck today playing Gulfstream. I have my product up as always on racingdudes.com. But more importantly, good luck, be smart, and stay safe here as we approach the first full weekend in 2021.